A routine renovation in Buckingham Palace uncovers a sealed vault no one knew existed. Not even senior royal aides. Hidden behind false walls and untouched since the 1950s, the chamber held documents marked "For Eyes Only" and tapes with Queen Elizabeth's personal voice recordings. What was inside? Secret affairs, cover-up operations, and financial ledgers that could shatter the monarchy's carefully preserved image. As panic grips the palace, NDAs are enforced, files disappear, and high-level meetings unfold in complete secrecy. But it may be too late, because now the truth is out, and the world is watching. A sealed vault beneath the palace. It started on a cold morning in February 2025, when a small maintenance crew was sent to inspect plumbing behind the aging west wing of Buckingham Palace. Beneath layers of paneling, one worker noticed a faint outline in the wall, too symmetrical to be accidental. When they removed the covering, a heavy metal door appeared, bearing the royal insignia of Queen Elizabeth II, dated 1954. The room behind it had no listing in official palace blueprints, no mention in archives, and no key assigned to its lock. Dust and silence cloaked the chamber. The air inside was heavy, as if time itself had been sealed away. The entryway was reinforced with steel bars, suggesting an intent to protect, conceal, or both. Engineers on site halted the renovation and reported the find. Within 2 hours, royal security arrived and ordered the room sealed until further notice. Archivists, led by a representative from the Royal Collection Trust, were summoned to evaluate its contents. They had never seen anything like it in all their years of service. What troubled everyone was not just the vault's secrecy, but who knew about it. Senior palace aides and historians had no record of its construction or purpose. One name surfaced: Sir Geoffrey Ellis, Queen Elizabeth's personal secretary from 1952 to 1960. When contacted by phone, the now 89-year-old reportedly muttered, "That room was never meant to be opened." No explanation followed, and the call ended. A quiet panic began to spread through the palace's private corridors. Whatever was inside, it wasn't just old paperwork. It was royal history buried alive. News of the discovery was kept internal for 48 hours, until a junior staffer leaked a photo of the door's insignia to a royal blogger. The post went viral within minutes. Headlines read, "Secret Room Discovered in Buckingham Palace, Queen's Hidden Past." The palace issued no statement, but damage control teams were activated. What had begun as a routine maintenance job had become a ticking time bomb beneath the monarchy's marble floors. When the archivists finally unlocked the vault, they expected little more than dusty furniture or outdated storage. What they found instead was a room stacked wall to wall with locked trunks, faded files, and magnetic reels dating back to the 1950s. These weren't just mementos, they were evidence, letters, conversations, secrets, all bearing the seal of Queen Elizabeth II. And in the center of it all, a single box with the words, "Operation Silence." Inside the vault. As the vault's contents were sorted over 3 tense days, patterns began to emerge. At least 7 crates were filled with handwritten correspondence stamped "Personal Royal Eyes Only," dating from 1953 to 1977. The Queen's own handwriting was unmistakable, precise, slanted, emotionally restrained. Among these were letters exchanged with Prime Minister Harold Macmillan, President Eisenhower, and even Margaret Thatcher. But what truly startled the archivists were the recordings. Dozens of audio reels, labeled with nothing but dates, lined the back wall. Each tape bore cryptic labels: Berlin, 1961. Aberfan response: Charles, Education Debate, 1968. Some featured the Queen in private discussion with world leaders. Others were personal reflections, her uncensored voice narrating moments of uncertainty. One reel from 1982, marked simply "Crisis Diana," was immediately classified. Experts began logging every file for legal review, but word leaked quickly through the internal network. Several aides reportedly broke into tears after hearing a sample. "It's her voice," one whispered. Unfiltered, unafraid. Tucked inside a reinforced box, archivists discovered a series of internal memos about royal family tensions. These included a 1979 letter from Lord Mountbatten warning of fractures within the House of Windsor, and pages of private observations about Princess Margaret's declining health, the monarchy's public image during the Suez Crisis, and a detailed response strategy to the 1981 IRA threats. But one file stood out, Box 47, marked with a red wax seal and one phrase, "Operation Silence." Upon opening it, the room reportedly fell silent. The documents inside were not general royal records. They were scandal files, names, dates, transactions. There were signed media contracts, payments to journalists, and non-disclosure forms from former staff, all tied to the same scandal, one that had never been made public. An affair, a betrayal, and a royal cover-up. The operation appeared to have been orchestrated with military precision. It wasn't theory, it was plan, policy, and practice. Among all the files in the vault, none were more chilling than those in Box 47. Operation Silence wasn't just a phrase. It was a fully executed campaign to bury a royal scandal that, had it leaked, could have ended careers, marriages, and possibly even the monarchy's standing. But now, the documents were out, and they pointed to something the world had never known: a deeply covered-up affair between a married royal and a foreign diplomat's wife, sanctioned from the very top. The royal cover-up no one knew existed. Inside Box 47, the evidence was undeniable. The affair had begun in 1965 between a senior royal, identity redacted in some files, and the wife of a Middle Eastern ambassador. Notes revealed that the relationship lasted over 18 months, during which secret meetings occurred in Paris, Geneva, and a private estate in Surrey. Memos marked Eyes Only, ER, show the Queen herself was briefed by MI6 on the matter by July 1966. Her response, written in her own hand: "Contain it immediately. National stability above all." A task force was established in August 1966, coordinated between palace aides, legal counsel, and foreign diplomats. Dubbed Operation Silence, the goal was clear: prevent press exposure, suppress rumors, and secure loyalty through strategic payouts. A ledger revealed over £2.3 million in untraceable funds dispersed between 1966 and 1972, labeled Security Coordination. The documents show at least 17 non-disclosure agreements, including from chauffeurs, staff, and hotel clerks. One file, titled Tabloid Threats, Daily Mirror, November 1968, describes how editors were bribed with honors and contracts. Even more disturbing were the personal letters between the Queen and her private secretary, Martin Charteris. In a note dated September 1967, she writes, "We cannot afford a repeat of 1936. Contain the narrative. Spare the institution." This was a direct reference to the abdication of Edward VIII, the last time personal scandal had shaken the monarchy. It revealed how, once again, the crown chose containment over truth. The preservation of image outweighed emotional integrity, It was systemic, deliberate, and cold. Historians reviewing the files believe this revelation will alter public perception of the Queen's reign. Previously seen as a pillar of duty and discretion, she now appears complicit in using power to suppress inconvenient realities. She didn't lie, one expert said, but she ensured the truth stayed buried. The fact that such an operation could remain hidden for nearly 60 years raises troubling questions about how many other events were buried. With these documents now exposed, the story of the modern monarchy may never look the same again. As the vault continued to reveal its secrets, the story began to shift focus from political cover-ups to personal heartbreak. The next set of files centered on Princess Margaret, the Queen's only sibling, whose love life had once captivated the nation, and whose emotional undoing, it turns out, may not have been entirely her own doing. What the public saw as royal misbehavior was, in truth, a tragedy engineered from inside the palace walls. Princess Margaret's forbidden life revealed. Tucked behind a bundle of 1970s diplomatic letters, archivists discovered a series of personal envelopes addressed simply M. These were the private letters of Princess Margaret, the Queen's younger sister, long dead, yet still capable of shaking the monarchy. One envelope, dated October 12, 1955, was addressed to Peter, unmistakably Group Captain Peter Townsend, her forbidden love. The letter read, "They have taken my choice from me. You were my world, and now I must smile beside theirs." That single sentence rewrote everything. Townsend, 16 years Margaret's senior, had been barred from marrying her due to his divorce, something considered unacceptable by Church and Crown at the time. But the letters proved their bond ran deeper than the official version told. In a follow-up note from November 1955, Margaret accused senior courtiers of strategic delays designed to force her hand. "They asked me to wait," she wrote, "and while I waited, they plotted." Aides cited public sentiment as the barrier, but Margaret clearly believed it was manipulation, not morality. More damning were the Queen's annotations on the subject. A 1960 memo shows Elizabeth writing to Archbishop Geoffrey Fisher, in which she expresses regret, saying, "I fear we sacrificed my sister's joy for our survival." This one sentence casts the Queen not only as monarch, but as reluctant accomplice. Alongside it, Margaret's own audio recordings, made between 1973 to 1977, reveal a woman spiraling. She speaks of late-night drinking, feelings of betrayal, and the pain of watching others be allowed what I was denied. The tapes are raw, reflective, and deeply personal. Historians reviewing the files agree. Margaret wasn't simply the rebellious royal she was portrayed as. She was a prisoner of protocol, betrayed by the very system that should have protected her. One biographer noted, "These revelations show that Margaret's downfall wasn't self-inflicted. It was orchestrated." Her heartbreak, now documented and archived, reshapes her legacy. She wasn't the problem child. She was the first victim of a system that would later swallow Princess Diana whole. And Diana's name was everywhere in the vault, scribbled in the margins of memos, highlighted in red across folders, spoken in panicked tones on security transcripts. The files labeled D were no accident. They weren't just about her interviews or fashion, they were about control, suppression, and the slow erasure of a woman too beloved for the crown to contain. What was hidden in those documents proved that Diana's battle wasn't just against Charles, it was against the entire institution. Diana Files, hidden from the public. The section labeled D-Sensitive Communications contained more than 300 pages of internal royal documents concerning Princess Diana between 1981 and 1997. Among them were internal security briefings, press coordination memos, and redacted psychological assessments. Most disturbing, however, were memos revealing the palace's media strategy during and after Diana's 1992 separation from Charles. A document dated July 1993, labeled Phase 2, Narrative Reframe, outlined a plan to portray Diana as emotionally unstable and consumed by public image. This was not speculation. It was typed, signed, and confirmed. One letter, previously unseen by the public, was written by Diana herself in 1996, addressed to a friend referred to only as B. In it, Diana reveals her growing suspicion that her Kensington Palace apartments were bugged. "I hear clicks on the line. My private moments feel observed," she wrote. In the margin, she had scribbled, "They'll make me look paranoid. It's their only card left." Alongside this letter were security reports confirming that her phones had indeed been flagged for monitoring under protective protocols. In other words, the palace was watching her. One particularly controversial file was a draft memo titled Camilla Transition Strategy, dated August 1997, just weeks before Diana's death. The document outlined talking points for press releases aimed at softening public sentiment toward Camilla and stabilizing Charles's public standing. Though unsigned, the memo had been reviewed by at least 3 senior palace aides. The timing of the strategy, so close to Diana's fatal crash in Paris on August 31, 1997, has sparked renewed outrage. The question now being asked, was the monarchy already preparing to erase her? The vault confirms what many suspected for decades. Diana was not protected. She was pre-managed, sidelined, and ultimately reframed in the eyes of the public. Even in death, she was treated as a threat to royal stability. The firm viewed her popularity as both a gift and a danger, one royal historian remarked. They feared that if they didn't control her, she'd outshine them all, even from beyond the grave. These newly revealed documents now make that fear official. But perhaps the most shocking part of the vault wasn't what they did to Diana. It was how early they began preparing for Camilla. Long before the public accepted her, long before the marriage, the palace had already begun scripting her rise. The next set of files revealed a strategy dating back to the early 1990s, designed to normalize Camilla's image, reframe her role, and prepare the world to see her not as the other woman, but as a future queen consort. Camilla's emergence. Among the vault's most politically sensitive files was a folder labeled C. Bowles, Image Restructuring Initiative. Inside were documents dated between 1990 and 2001, detailing public engagement planning, press briefings, and internal memos about Camilla Parker Bowles's future role. A 1991 report, reviewed by the Royal Household Media Committee, evaluated Camilla's Public Favorability Index, rating her at 17%, described as alarming. But the cover memo, written by a palace PR advisor, claimed, "Given time, strategy, and selective exposure, this can be reversed." By 1993, as Charles and Diana's marriage deteriorated, Camilla was being quietly reintroduced into public consciousness. A memo titled Public Acclimatization Strategy suggested staging non-royal charitable events with Camilla in attendance, using friendly press coverage. Another document described leveraging sympathetic editors at The Times, The Telegraph, and Hello magazine to soften her image. "We must replace mistress with humanitarian," it read. These weren't organic shifts. They were engineered perception changes designed to shift national memory. Perhaps most chilling was a collection of photographs found in the vault. Private images of Camilla attending royal functions between 1995 and 2004, long before she was officially accepted by the royal family. Many of these events were never reported in the press. In each image, Camilla stood just outside the spotlight, always present, never acknowledged. They were testing visibility, one expert said. Camilla was never hiding. She was rehearsing. The slow, deliberate visibility campaign had begun while Diana was still alive. The files now confirm what many long suspected. Camilla's rise to queen consort was not the result of public forgiveness or fate. It was the outcome of a decades-long PR operation. It began while Diana was still fighting for her place and accelerated after her death. The firm bet everything on Camilla being palatable in time, a royal historian noted. And thanks to a careful campaign, it worked, until now. These documents show her image wasn't rehabilitated, it was constructed. The next section of the vault brought the entire story full circle, with a single box labeled, "For Charles, upon my death." It contained Queen Elizabeth II's personal letters to her son, unseen until now. In them, the monarch delivers her final instructions, her deepest fears, and her private opinion about Camilla's role in the royal future. And perhaps most powerfully, she warned Charles, clearly and directly, what not to do after her passing. Queen Elizabeth's final warnings to Charles. In a locked black case marked, "For Charles, upon my death," palace archivists found 9 letters handwritten by Queen Elizabeth II between 2003 and 2017. They were sealed, never delivered, and addressed only to her eldest son, now King Charles III. Each letter was dated and categorized: marriage, public trust, the monarchy's future. Most were penned from Balmoral, her place of reflection. The handwriting was steady, but the words inside carried heavy weight. The Queen had spoken, not to the world, but to her son, and now those words had come to light. In a letter dated March 17, 2005, just weeks before Charles married Camilla Parker Bowles, the Queen wrote, "You have my permission, but not my endorsement." She expressed concern over the speed of Camilla's introduction as a future consort and the timing so close to Diana's death anniversary. In her words, "The nation does not forget quickly, and the children remember longer." She advised Charles to delay any elevation of Camilla's title beyond Princess Consort, citing concerns about emotional wounds yet unhealed. The monarchy, she warned, must never outrun the people's forgiveness. Another letter from 2012 offers insight into her fears over Charles's leadership. She urges him to prioritize Prince William in public engagements, to let the people see continuity. The Queen praised William and Catherine for their stability and warned against overshadowing them. "Your role is no longer heir, it is steward," she wrote. In other words, he was not the future, William was. She concluded the note with an ominous line, "Should you ever stand too far ahead, you risk standing alone." But the most shocking letter of all came from January 2020, the year of Megxit. The Queen expressed fear that the royal family had lost its moral compass. She warned Charles that pushing Camilla too far into the public spotlight could fracture what remained of the monarchy's credibility. "I accepted Camilla for your happiness," she wrote, "but I fear the people may not." These letters now raise a chilling question. Did Charles ignore his mother's final royal counsel, or never receive it at all? While emotional truths shook the vault, financial revelations soon followed. Behind a partition, a metal cabinet labeled Crown Estate, Reserve Holdings, exposed a network of royal assets, bank transfers, and offshore accounts hidden from public oversight. What lay within was not just a fortune, it was a map of how the monarchy had protected itself in times of crisis. But at what cost? And why were billions hidden when taxpayers were told the crown was financially transparent? Hidden wealth and assets. Inside the locked cabinet were 56 documents marked Non-Disclosed Holdings, spanning from 1971 to 2019. These included transfer records, shell company listings, and financial reports managed by a network of royal trustees. One document, dated August 1977, referred to a sovereign reserve account based in the Cayman Islands, holding £412 million under the alias Estate Delta. According to the memo, these funds were designated for emergency abdication or exile circumstances. It was a doomsday account, set aside if the monarchy ever collapsed. Another file titled Suez Allocation, 1956, detailed the diversion of crown funds into foreign banks to shield against economic backlash during political crises. More recent records showed transactions involving properties in Bermuda, Dubai, and Kenya, owned through shell companies linked to the Duchy of Cornwall and Lancaster. These weren't ordinary royal investments. They were safeguards hidden from Parliament, the press, and the people. Each transfer was signed off by either the Queen, the Lord Chamberlain, or her private financial secretary. A document from 1989, labeled Post-Divorce Contingency, Diana, outlined preparations for potential legal claims by Diana following her split from Charles. The memo recommended increasing overseas reserves in the event of litigation or leak-induced reputational loss. It directly references Camilla, warning that any financial trace of favoritism must be concealed. This proved unequivocally that the monarchy not only planned for scandal, it funded itself to survive it, no matter the ethical implications. What shocks observers most is not the amount, billions in holdings, but the structure. These weren't crown assets held in public trust. They were off-the-books reserves, moved through Commonwealth networks, and coordinated by individuals who've since retired or passed. Transparency had always been the palace's mantra. These documents now expose it as myth. As one royal economist put it, this isn't legacy wealth, this is escape wealth. The moment the financial files were confirmed authentic, Buckingham Palace went into crisis mode. High-level staff were summoned. Private legal counsel was flown in. Press officers were pulled from leave. And the once silent corridors of the palace were filled with murmurs of containment, damage control, and fear. What began as a quiet discovery was now an all-out emergency. The Crown's darkest archive had been opened, and there was no way to unsee it. The palace's immediate panic and damage control. Within 6 hours of the vault's contents being reviewed by legal counsel, an emergency meeting was held in Clarence House. Present were King Charles III, Prince William, the Lord Chamberlain, and the Queen Consort. Royal sources say Charles appeared ashen, while William was silent but visibly shaken. Aides were sworn into new non-disclosure agreements, extended by 25 years. Archive access was immediately revoked. "Lock it down," Charles reportedly ordered. "This cannot leave these walls." But it already had. Royal Communications issued an internal directive to restructure all historical messaging. Memos circulated with phrases like unexpected disclosures, revision of narrative, and deniability optics. The palace's media team began crafting alternate timelines for public release, selectively referencing discoveries as historic curiosities rather than classified crises. Behind the scenes, efforts were made to reach out to publishers, newsrooms, and platforms to delay or discourage leaks. One press officer described it as a race against the internet. Meanwhile, select high-ranking aides were flown to Windsor, where a private damage assessment was conducted. Lawyers reviewed every potentially damaging file. "We prioritized royal survival," one insider later admitted. At least 4 staffers who had early access to the vault were quietly reassigned or placed on leave. One was reportedly escorted out by security. The monarchy was moving fast, not to explain but to erase. But it was too late. At least 3 photographs, 2 scanned memos, and 1 audio excerpt had already been leaked. A royal historian with ties to the Times confirmed he had seen the files. "If even half of it comes out," he said, "this will be the greatest royal crisis since 1936. Buckingham Palace now found itself trapped. Deny the truth and look deceptive, or admit it and face the collapse of royal mystique. As the royal walls tightened and the strategy shifted from secrecy to survival, the public was left with one question: what happens now? With the vault's contents surfacing, with press outlets circling, and with public trust already eroding, the monarchy stands on a precipice. This was no longer a tale of dusty files and sealed rooms. It was a story of power, legacy, and reckoning. And for the first time in decades, the people, not the palace, were in control of the narrative. What happens now? The aftermath of the vault's discovery is not just a private embarrassment, it's a constitutional crisis in slow motion. As news of the document spreads, members of Parliament are calling for a full independent inquiry. MP Rachel Whitmore introduced a motion to review Crown Estate transparency laws on May 2, 2025, gaining support from both parties. Journalists, legal scholars, and anti-monarchy advocates are demanding access to the remaining vault contents. A public petition now counts over 1.3 million signatures requesting full disclosure. Public trust in the monarchy has taken a major hit. In a YouGov poll conducted May 4th to 5th, 61% of respondents under 40 said the Crown no longer represents the values of modern Britain. On social media, hashtags like #TheVaultFiles and Royal Cover-Up continue trending globally. Commentators compare this to the Panama Papers, but worse, because these revelations involve public image, secret scandals, and tax-funded institutions. The Crown's greatest strength, its mystique, is unraveling. Amid the silence, Prince William has emerged as a figure of curiosity. Despite attending the initial crisis meeting, he has made no statement and has avoided public engagements for over 2 weeks. Sources suggest he is conflicted and cautious, torn between protecting his father and defending the future he represents. His silence speaks volumes, and has led many to speculate that William may be preparing for a role he never expected: the one who redefines or dismantles the monarchy. As the dust settles, one truth remains undeniable: the past cannot be hidden forever. The vault was not just a room. It was a metaphor for everything buried, polished, and concealed behind palace walls. Now that it's open, no amount of PR or protocol can fully contain the fallout. The monarchy's story is being rewritten not by courtiers or press officers, but by history itself. The vault was never meant to be found, but now that it has, the royal facade is cracking. With every leaked memo, hidden recording, and buried truth, the world sees a monarchy not of honor, but of secrets. As public pressure mounts and trust erodes, the question isn't whether the Crown will respond, it's whether it can survive. Princess Margaret's heartbreak, Diana's silencing, Camilla's rise, it was all planned, all preserved, and now all exposed. History has opened its mouth, and the palace can't close it. The past has come knocking, and this time it demands answers.